Right, hello everyone and welcome to this new video on the channel. So today we're going to be reacting to the championship predictions that are made before the start of the 24-25 season. So let's get into it. So let's get the table on to the screen then. So as you can see we've got positions 1 to 24. So we've got the team, obviously, where I predict them to finish, and then to the right of that team, you've got where they actually finished, and then to the right of that, you have got the position difference. So that's how we're going to be basing how well I've done. So the aim is to get the least amount of points possible. So basically it's a point for each place out you are with each team. So for example, if I predict the team to finish bottom and they did finish bottom, then I get 0 points because I got that prediction spot on. Whereas if I predict them to finish bottom and they finished in 20th, I'll get 4 points, as 24 minus 20 equals 4, which is the difference in between places. So that's how we're going to do it. So if you've done this as well, use the same scoring system and let me know what score you got in the comments below. So let's start off with the relegation zone. So starting with bottom 3, a very mixed bag to start off with. So in 24th, I went for Plymouth Argyle, who finished a place above in 23rd. Got a big one here, Blackburn. I predicted second bottom in 23rd, and they actually finished in 7th, so a whopping 16 points added to my total there. And then in third bottom, I went for Oxford United, who finished in 17th, so got another 5 points added to the total. So with Plymouth, I think it was kind of a bit of a safe bet to say that they were going to get relegated. They were at bottom table for most of the season, and then they did overtake Cardiff with, I think it was about 2 games to go, but you could tell early days that Plymouth were going to go down. Obviously under Rooney, they weren't looking good at all. They did a bit better since he left, but you know, a bit too little too late in at the end. And then Blackburn, yeah, this is a terrible prediction. Obviously very unlucky to miss out on the playoffs. Had a lot better season than I thought they did, and you know, I'll hold my hands up to that. A lot of Blackburn fans said I regret putting him at bottom, and yep, I have. Yeah, fair play for them. You know, had a very, very good season, just missing out on the playoffs. So it'll be interesting how they do next year though. Because like I say, I think I predicted them quite high last season and they nearly got relegated. So let's see if that's the case again. And then Oxford, I thought they'd take it close, a bit like Wycombe when they had the COVID season, you know, took it very close when the odds were against them, but just ended up going down. But, you know, they did a lot better than that. They ended up surviving. Obviously, Des Buckingham, you know, did pretty well with them before getting the sack. And then Gary Rowett came in and, you know, they had enough to survive pretty comfortably in the end. Moving on to the teams I had just outside of the relegation zone. In 21st, I had Derby County, who finished in 19th, so that's 2 points for me. And then in 20th, I had Portsmouth, who finished in 16th, so 4 points there. And then in 19th, I went for Watford, who finished up in 14th, so another 5 points added to the total. Derby looked like they were in big danger of going down at one point, but, you know, John Eustace did a fantastic job when he went there, and he pulled them quite a bit clear of the drop zone. And then Portsmouth had a very bad start at the bottom for quite a while in the championship, but then managed to pull themselves out of it brilliantly. I mean, when Colby Bishop came back to fitness, he really helped to pull them out of the relegation zone, and never looked back, really surviving with ease. And then 14th, I went, like I say, Watford finished in 14th. Always hard to predict how Watford do. They always chop and change the manager a lot. I'm surprised cleverly it lasted as long as it did, to be honest with you. But, you know, nevertheless, always hard to predict how Watford do. They looked good at the start of the season in and around the playoffs, but then did slide down the table towards the end of the season. Unfortunately, that did cost Cleverly his job, but yeah, to be fair, he probably has been one of the longest serving managers they've had, at least in the last 10 years. In 18th place, I went for Hull City, who finished in 21st, just outside the relegation zone, so 3 points added to my total there. 17th, I went for Swansea City, who finished in 11th, so that's 6 points added to the total. And then in 16th, I went for Stoke City, who finished in 18th, so another 2 points there. With Hull, I thought they would have a drop-off. Obviously finished just outside the playoffs in 7th last season. However, Liam Rosenior did get sacked, and I watched them in a friendly against us. We beat them 4-0, Doncaster Rovers that is, and it looked absolutely shocking. I know it mainly the kids, but, you know, there were a lot going off behind the scenes, a lot of players leaving and stuff like that, and I just thought, I didn't think they'd be as low as they did, you know, they ended up finishing, but I did think there would be a bit of a drop-off from Hull this season, and, you know, they were very lucky to survive on the last day, getting a point and, you know, overtaking Luton to get out of the drop zone. And then Swansea, quite hard to predict, to be fair. But yeah, a standard mid-table finish for Swansea. I thought it'd be a bit further down than they were, but they did manage to get a top half finish in the end. And with Stoke, they usually, like I say, they are usually around this sort of position. But yeah, they were in danger of getting dragged into it at one point. They were around like the 13th to 20th, round there pretty much all season. So it was kind of guesswork where they'd finish, and it ended up being in 18th, but still 2 points difference, so I'm not too disappointed with that one. So completing the bottom half in 15th, I went for Preston North End, who finished in 20th, so that's 5 points added there. In 14th, I went for Bristol City, who ended up in 6th place, so that's another 8 points, and then in 13th, I went for Cardiff City, who finished bottom of the league, so 11 points added to my total there. So not some great predictions here. I thought Preston Bristol City, they'd be around typically where they finish, anywhere in the middle of the table, but both didn't do that for opposite reasons. Preston, they got dragged into it on the last day. You thought they were going to finish in mid-table, and then all of a sudden, they're in real danger of going down on the final day, but we did manage to avoid it in the end. A bit of a weird one, like I say, sacking Ryan Lowe after the first game of the season, and then replacing him with Paul Eckenbottom, and it just didn't look like it'd work, and I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't last very long into the next season. And Bristol City, however, went in the other direction, clinching a playoff spot, and a really, really good season. Liam Manning, working wonders at that club. Unfortunately, like I say, he has just gone to Norwich City. I think we're either today or yesterday at the time of recording. So, they'll be wanting to recruit wisely. Bristol City, I've heard Rob Edwards has been linked with him. So, had a very good season, and, they'll want to kind of repeat that this season if they can. And then Cardiff, just a bit of a car crash season, to be honest with you. They were bottom, around the bottom two for most of the early parts of the season, and then they hit a bit of form and did pull themselves back out of it, but then at the end of the season just fell off completely again, ended up being the first team relegated out of the Championship and finished dead bottom of the Championship. Moving into the top half now then, and in 12th I predicted Sunderland, who finished in 4th place and also won the playoffs to go up to the Premier League, so that gains me 8 points there. In 11th, I went for QPR. They finished down in 15th, so that's another 4 points added. And then in 10th place, I predicted Sheffield Wednesday, who finished in 12th. So another 2 points there. Sunderland are just a team who they're usually the team that I'm most off with every season. Not this season, but I am still quite a bit off with them. First season up, I predicted them kind of halfway down bottom half, and they end up in playoffs. Then last season I predicted them to do really well in playoffs, and they didn't do very well. This year I had them mid-table, and they've had a very good season, finishing in 4th, and it's going to be interesting to watch them in the Premier League next season. Congratulations to everyone at Sunderland. QPR, they're not a bad team. QPR, they're hit form at the right time last year. I thought they'd finish a bit higher, they did last season, and keep that momentum going, but in the end, it was a 15th place finish. And Sheffield Wednesday, very good manager for the squad. We've got Danny Roll. I think, they do overachieve with the squad. I think the squad's not the best, but we have got a very good manager. It's going to be interesting if we can keep hold of him. I know a lot of clubs overseas are looking at him, and obviously it's got bit of a ropey relationship with Chansiri, as anyone who's going to come into that club probably will have. So they'll have to really keep hold of Roll, or I can see him slipping down the table. And now for the teams I had finishing just outside of the playoffs. In 9th place I went for Millwall, who finished in 8th, so a point added to my total there. In 8th place I went for Norwich, who finished down in 13th, so 5 points added to my total. And then in 7th, I went for Sheffield United, who finished in 3rd place, so 4 points added there. Millwall, I thought they'd have a good year this year. I thought they'd be just outside the playoffs. They did a tiny bit better than I thought they'd do, finishing in 8th place, so, I'm not too fussed about that. Got on thereabouts. And as for Norwich, I didn't. I thought they'd be around playoffs, but I thought the top would be a bit too strong and they'd just miss out, but, they ended up finishing in the bottom half. So I've got Liam Manning now, so, he's had a good track record at both Oxford and Bristol City last season. So, you know, be interesting to see what he can do and see if he can get him back into a top 6 position for next season. And then Sheffield United, we had an awful season in Premier League the season before, only 15 points to the name, and I thought we'd find it tough back in the Championship. Like I say, some good teams from the Championship the season before, and obviously then you have, you know, got the other teams that came down with him who, you know, aren't going to make it easy at all, but they did, you know, they did better, and with the points deduction as well. It looked like we were going to win the league at one point, but we had, I think we lost 4 games in a row towards the end, and we slipped out the automatic promotion spots. Leeds and Burnley took them, and then, of course, they're never winning playoffs. So Sunderland beat them in the final, so it's another season in the Championship for Sheffield United, but I do think they'll be right up there once again next season. Okay, next up, let's have a look at the playoffs. I really don't want to, because I know these are awful, but let's have a look at them anyway. So in 6th place, I predicted West Brom, who finished down in 9th, so that's 3 points added. And then 5th place, I went for Middlesbrough, who finished in 10th place, so that's 5 points added to the total. The only one of the 4 playoff teams that I actually got in the playoffs, and that was Coventry, who were picked 4th. They finished 5th, so that's only 1 point added. And then we've got probably the stinker of the video. In 3rd place, I went for Luton Town, and they didn't finish 3rd top, they finished 3rd bottom. They got relegated, back-to-back relegations to League One, so of course that does mean I've got a massive 19 points added to my total, so not very good for playoffs here at all. West Brom just didn't have enough in the end, did they? You know, I mean, it was always going to be tough with manager going, but, you know, they're just, you always think we're going to be there or thereabouts in playoffs, but we just didn't have enough this season. And same with Middlesbrough, to be fair. You know, they're very good going for, you know, you'd think with quality they've got, they'd be, you know, they need to be in playoffs, to be fair. You know, it's hard to find excuses for them not to finish in playoffs. You know, we've got some real quality in that team, and it's another season they've failed to get in, so yeah, not a good season for Middlesbrough at all, in my opinion. And then Coventry started off a bit rocky, but, you know, they always find a way to get into the playoffs, and they had a fantastic run under Frank Lampard, and, you know, I fancied them in playoffs. I thought they could do it, but, you know, we had a very late goal to lose it against Sunderland, 120th minute, which denied them a penalty shootout and a chance to get to Wembley. But, you know, that run put together, it's a great club, Coventry. You know, great fans. I did love a visit there this season, and you know, I'm sure they'll be back next season. I fancy him to be in around playoffs once again. And as for Luton, I thought we'd do pretty well. It looked like in Prem, we're building a team that'd be strong in the Championship next season, but unfortunately they weren't. You know, they were building to get out of the Championship. They did get out of it, but unfortunately in the wrong direction. And I don't know how they'll do in League One. You know, obviously we've still got parachute payments, and we've got a good squad if we can keep hold of it. You know, but with that much downwards momentum at the minute, it is going to be tough, I think, for him. And let's move in to the top 2 then. I've got it right, so the question is, have I got them in the right order, as I haven't got any spot on as of yet? And the answer to that is, I have indeed. These are my only 2 spot on predictions of the video, and I've saved them till last. So we had Burnley in second, who of course did come second, and Leeds winning the title, which they did. I fancied these 2, to be fair. Scott Parker, you know, whether you think he's a good or bad manager, he does know how to get out of this division. You know, he's done it with Fulham, he's done it with Bournemouth, and you know, he just knows how to do it, and he's done it once again with Burnley. And you know, the defensive record speaks for itself. So many clean sheets. James Trafford, obviously, you know, keeping an unbelievable amount of clean sheets. You know, saving them 2 penalties in one game against Sunderland. And the defensive record speaks for itself. For just teams couldn't break them down, and you know, that were enough to get them promoted. But the one thing that was probably negative was they didn't score enough goals, and that is something that Leeds United did. You know, they just outscored everyone. They looked relentless at times. Obviously, both teams finished on 100 points, but it were Leeds with extra goals that had a higher goal difference. Hence, they finished above them. And there were a lot of pressure on Leeds. Like I say, losing the playoff final last season to Southampton, they needed, you know, to have a good season here. And it was kind of 3-horse race, and they managed to pull away, you know, from Sheffield United in the end and go up. And then it was a good battle between them and Burnley for who won the league, and it was Leeds who came out on top. So congratulations to Leeds on winning the title, and congratulations to Burnley on your promotion. So there we have it then. That is my 1-24 championship predictions on the screen right now. So in total I got 2 spot on, which were the last 2, Leeds and Burnley, and my worst one was 19 places out, which was Luton, when we predicted them 3rd, and I'm coming in at 22nd. So if you've done this, let me know what your best and worst predictions of the season were. So in total, I got 120 points for the championship, which is actually the best yet. I got 124 for League 2, 122 for League 1, and now 120 for the championship. So of course I'm going to get 118 for the Premier League if this pattern continues. So if you made some predictions before the start of the season, use the same scoring system as me and let me know how many points you got in the comments. So until the next one, which will be the Premier League predictions, I will leave it here. So thank you very much for watching. If you're new around here, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop the video a like, whether you're an old or new viewer. Like I say, we're on the road to 2,000 subs now, so let's aim for 30 likes to boost that algorithm. And also please remember to follow my social media at Gittings PT on pretty much everything. So until the next video, thank you very much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.